The sun beat down on the agricultural fields of New Haven Colony. Sophie Hayes walked between the rows of genetically modified crops, checking the moisture sensors with her weathered hands. She had been born on Earth, in Kansas, where the land stretched flat and endless. Here on this alien world, 3 years under Vorthan occupation, the fields looked different, but felt the same. The work was honest. The work was good. The sound of heavy footsteps made her look up. The Vorthan patrol had arrived earlier than usual. Sophie knew the schedule. She had memorized it like all the other colonists. 6 guards in gray armor, their exoskeletons gleaming in the hot sun. And leading them was Commander Krell. She had seen him before, from far away. Everyone in New Haven had seen him. He was tall, almost 7 feet, with skin that looked like dark blue metal. His forearms were the first thing people noticed. 2 hung at his sides, powerful and thick. 2 more emerged from his upper torso, equally muscled. His face was angular, with eyes that burned black like holes in space. Thought the colonists had learned not to stare, not to make sudden movements, not to do anything that might make the Vorthans think they were defiant. The occupation had rules, unspoken but clear. Work hard, obey orders. Keep your head down. Sophie returned to her work, pretending not to have seen them. She adjusted a sensor on one of the plants and moved to the next row. But she felt his eyes on her. She always did. Commander Krell had occupied this colony for 3 years, and he was bored out of his mind. He had conquered 143 worlds. He had led battles against 4 different species. He had faced warriors who fought until their bodies broke apart. And now he stood in a field in the middle of nowhere, watching humans pick crops. The humans interested him only because they did not fight back. They accepted everything. They obeyed every order. They seemed to have no pride, no resistance, no will to stand against superior force. It made them boring. A good conquest required challenge. Victory meant nothing if your enemy simply gave up. Krell walked deeper into the field, his footsteps crushing the dry earth beneath his weight. His guards spread out, moving between the colonists. The humans immediately stepped back, their eyes down, their hands visible. Perfect obedience. Perfect fear. Then he saw her. She was shorter than most humans, with light brown hair tied back from her face. She moved with purpose, not the shuffling movements of fear. She was adjusting something on a plant, focused completely on her work, as if the Vorthan commander and his guards did not exist. Krell stopped walking. He stared at her. In 3 years, he had never seen a human move like that. With intention, with purpose, with something that looked like indifference to his presence. He moved toward her, his footsteps heavy and deliberate. The guards fell into formation behind him. The other colonists noticed and stepped further back, creating space around her like she was marked for something terrible. Sophie felt him approach. She knew who it was without looking. The weight of his footsteps, the hum of his armor systems, the sound of his breathing through the vocal modification device that made human speech possible. She finished adjusting the sensor and straightened up slowly. Only then did she turn to face him. Commander Krell stood 3 feet away. Up close, he was even more massive. His shadow blocked out the sun. His black eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her throat tight. "Your designation," he said. His voice came through the translator with a strange clicking quality underneath the human words. "Sophie Hayes," she replied. Her voice was steady. She was proud of that. "You work without efficiency," he said. It was not true. Sophie had the highest productivity rating of any colonist in the agricultural sector. She had worked earth soil for her whole life before the invasion. She knew farming in her bones. "You will demonstrate proper speed." He gestured with one of his upper arms, pointing at the row of plants she had been working on. She understood. He wanted her to repeat the task, faster, while he watched. It was the kind of thing the Vorthans did sometimes. They liked to see humans pushed. They liked to watch exhaustion set in. Sophie moved to the nearest plant. She began adjusting the sensors, moving quickly but carefully. She would not damage the equipment. That was not in her nature. Behind her, she could feel him watching. Faster, Krell said. She moved faster. Her fingers worked the delicate instruments with practiced precision. 1 plant. 2 plants. 3. Sweat began to form on her forehead under the sun, but she did not move fast enough. Krell was not satisfied with fast. He wanted to see something else. He wanted to see breaking point. He wanted to see what happened when a human could not meet a demand. That was the only thing that interested him about these creatures anymore. "You are refusing to obey," he said, and it was not a question. Sophie looked at the plants ahead of her. There were 20 more in this row. She could do them. She could do them faster. But not fast enough to satisfy someone who had decided she was failing. She turned to face him. "I am working as fast as I safely can," she said. "I will not damage equipment." The silence that followed was absolute. No colonist had spoken to a Vorthan like that in 3 years. No colonist had said the word no in any form. The guards moved their weapons slightly, uncertain how to respond. Commander Krell felt something ancient wake up inside him. Not anger exactly. Something older. Something from his people's distant past, before they had become conquerors, before they had learned technology and discipline. Something primal. He reached out with one of his lower arms. His 4 fingers, tipped with claws that could tear through steel, closed around the fabric of her work collar. He did not squeeze. He did not pull. He simply held her, the way a predator held prey before the final strike. Sophie's breath caught. This was it. This was the moment where everything changed. She had known it would come. She had prepared for it, though she could not have prepared for fear. But nothing happened the way anyone expected. The moment Krell's claws touched the cloth around her neck, the moment his contact registered against her skin, something in her body activated. It was ancient. It was biological. It was a defense that had been coded into human DNA across millions of years of evolution on a brutal world. Her nervous system flooded with chemicals. Her muscles seized. Every single nerve ending in her body erupted with a signal. Predator. Threat. Violent contact with hostile intent. Commander Krell felt the shock first. Then he felt pain. Then he could not feel anything because he could not move. His forearms locked in place. His legs froze. His entire massive body, weighing 400 pounds, became like a statue made of rock and muscle. Sophie gasped and stumbled backward. The commander remained frozen, his hands still extended, his face locked in confusion, his black eyes wide and unblinking. The guards did not know what to do. They pointed weapons at Sophie, but firing would be striking their own commander. They called for medical assistance. They shouted into communication devices. Sophie walked backward, away from the frozen Vorthan warrior. She was shaking. Her heart pounded so hard, she thought it might break her ribs. Commander Krell, for the first time in his entire life, understood that he had made a terrible mistake. The medical bay of the Vorthan command ship was cold and white. Everything was metal and light. Commander Krell lay on a platform that glowed beneath him, medical scanners moving over his body in steady patterns. 12 different systems analyzed him. 12 different systems found nothing wrong. His muscles remained completely locked. His breathing came through mechanical assistance. His consciousness was fully aware, trapped inside a body that would not respond to his commands. He had been paralyzed for 6 hours. The medical technicians were beginning to panic. Dr. Vess stood before a display screen, watching data flow across it. She had been studying Vorthan biology for 40 years. She had treated warriors with injuries that should have been fatal. She had repaired limbs, replaced organs, fixed nervous systems damaged by weapons fire. But this made no sense. The neural pathways are firing correctly, she said to herself. The signals are reaching the muscles. But the muscles will not respond. Is he going to die? Asked Captain Morn, the second in command of the occupation force. I do not know, Dr. Vess said honestly. There is no trauma. There is no damage. There is no physical reason for paralysis. Then, what is causing it? I have no answer. Sophie was placed in a detention room. It was small, with a bench and a toilet and nothing else. The walls were smooth metal. The door was locked with a system she could not open. A camera watched her from the corner. She sat on the bench and waited. She had done what she always knew she would have to do if the moment came. She had activated the defense her body possessed. Now she would suffer the consequences. The door hissed open. 2 guards entered, took her by the arms, and brought her to an interrogation room. This was where the Vorthans asked questions. This was where resistance came to die. A technician, a Vorthan with purple marks across his blue skin, sat behind a desk. He opened a file. Sophie Hayes, born on Earth, worked agricultural positions for 23 years before the invasion. No security clearance. No military experience. Nothing remarkable. Sophie said nothing. What did you do to Commander Krell? The technician asked. Nothing, Sophie said. He grabbed me. I reacted. You paralyzed him. How? I do not know. You are lying. Sophie had known they would think she was lying. The truth was too impossible. I am not lying. When a Vorthan grabbed me with violent intent, my body responded. It is not a skill. It is not a weapon. It is something my species does when threatened. The technician made a sound that was almost like laughter, but wrong. Vorthans did not laugh the way humans did. Your species has no biological weapons. Your species is soft. You have no defenses. I have a defense I did not know existed, Sophie said. Maybe you did not look hard enough. Maybe you did not think it was possible. The interrogation lasted 4 hours. Sophie answered every question truthfully. She explained what she could feel during the paralysis, what she thought had happened, what she knew of human biology from the basic education Earth colonists received. The technician recorded everything. When they took her back to the detention room, she was certain they would execute her. That was what happened when a human caused harm to a Vorthan, even if by accident. But they did not. Instead, they brought her back 3 hours later for more questions. This time, the questioning was different, more detailed, more interested in the mechanism itself. Scientists had joined the interrogation. They wanted to know about Earth, about evolution, about what kinds of threats humans faced that would require such a defense. Sophie told them about ice ages and predators, about disease and starvation, about the ways humans had learned to survive on a hostile world. She told them about thick skin and rapid healing, about the ability to regulate body temperature across extremes, about immune systems that could fight off infections that would kill other species. Your people hid this, one of the scientists said. It was not a question. Yes, Sophie said. We hid it because we were afraid. When other species discovered what we were, they would hunt us. So we pretended to be weak. We showed no resistance. We asked for nothing. We hoped the galaxy would leave us alone. 1 week passed. Dr. Vess worked without sleep. She studied scans from the medical bay. She studied recordings of the paralysis moment. She had Sophie brought to a medical facility and took samples of her blood, her tissue, her neural fluid. The answer came like a breakthrough. Slow and steady, piece by piece. Humans, she discovered, had evolved a complex biological defense system. When a predator attacked with violent intent, when contact was made with aggressive force, the human nervous system released massive quantities of neurochemical compounds. These compounds were meant to overload the nervous system of the attacker, causing temporary paralysis and pain. It worked through contact. Physical touch. Skin to skin or skin to material worn on skin. The signal transferred through the medium, attempting to trigger the same response in whatever creature was attacking. Vorthan biology was similar enough to human biology that the compounds could cross over and affect them. But Vorthan bodies were much larger, much heavier. The paralysis would last longer. The recovery would take longer. Dr. Vess brought the results to Commander Krell's frozen form. "You are not dying," she told him, even though he could not respond. "You are being poisoned by alien compounds in a way we do not yet understand. But your body will heal. It will take time." Krell's black eyes moved slightly, the only part of him that could move. In those eyes, Dr. Vess saw something she had never seen before in a Vorthan warrior. Fear. In the detention room, Sophie waited. She did not know if Krell would die. She did not know if she would be executed. She did not know what would happen next. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. The galaxy had just learned what humans really were. The careful secret that Earth had kept for 3 years, the truth that humans had hidden behind submission and obedience, was now exposed. The Deathworlders had revealed themselves. And nothing in the occupation would ever be the same. Days passed. Sophie was brought to a new room. Better. Cleaner. Someone brought her food. Real food. Water. A bed with blankets. Through a window, she could see the Vorthan command ship. She could see military vessels moving in the sky. She could feel the weight of 100,000 decisions being made because of what her body had done to their commander. Sophie Hayes, a farmer from Kansas, had paralyzed an invader with nothing but her own biology. And now the Vorthan Empire was asking themselves a question they had never considered before. What else had humanity been hiding? The answer would change everything. Commander Krell regained movement on the 10th day. His upper right arm moved first, just a twitch. Then his left leg responded. By the 12th day, he could sit up. By the 14th day, he could stand. The paralysis left him, but something worse remained. Understanding. He had conquered 143 worlds. He had faced battles that tested his strength and his intelligence. But nothing had prepared him for the knowledge that he was prey. The humans on this colony, these soft creatures he had considered beneath consideration, possessed a biological weapon more effective than any gun. They had hidden it for 3 years. They had allowed themselves to be occupied, to be ordered around, to be treated as less than animals, all while carrying the capacity to stop him with a single touch. It infuriated him. It terrified him. And it made him understand that he knew almost nothing about human nature. "Bring me Sophie Hayes," he ordered, his voice still rough from the medical treatment. Sophie was escorted to a small room. Commander Krell stood there, still recovering, his movements slower than before. He looked at her for a long time before he spoke. "Explain yourself," he said. Sophie had prepared for this. She had thought about nothing else for 2 weeks. "I cannot explain something that I do not fully understand myself. My body responded to your aggression. It is programmed into my species. You threatened me with violence, and my nervous system protected me." "You knew this would happen," Krell said. "It was not a question." "I knew it was possible," Sophie said. "I did not know for certain. But yes, I knew the risk. Why did you not warn us? Why did you hide this ability?" "Because we are afraid," Sophie said, and the honesty in her voice was absolute. When an advanced civilization discovers that a species possesses biological weapons, that species does not survive. We thought if we remained harmless, remained helpful, you would leave us alone. We thought if we did not give you reason to see us as a threat, we would live. Krell understood that. Fear was something all species understood. But he did not accept it as an excuse. You have now revealed yourselves, he said. My government will demand answers. Other species will hear of this. You have made humans a target. I made humans honest, Sophie said. We have been living a lie for 3 years. For thousands of years before that, we lived among your kind, pretending to be weaker than we are. Maybe it is time to stop pretending. And what do you expect will happen? You will be hunted. You will be captured. You will be studied. Your worlds will be taken over by those who wish to weaponize your defense or eliminate you before you become powerful. Perhaps, Sophie said. Or perhaps beings could recognize what humans truly are and decide to work with us instead of against us. Krell made a sound that was like a laugh. That is naive thinking, is it? Sophie moved a step closer. She was taking an enormous risk, but she had already risked everything. You came to this world and crushed us because you are strong. You believed we had nothing to offer. But what if we do? What if humans have something your empire needs? We need nothing from soft creatures, Krell said. You need soldiers, Sophie said. You need people who can think in ways your military cannot. You need warriors who can survive in environments that kill your people. You need individuals who can make decisions that no computer can calculate. That is what humans are. We are not conquerors. We are survivors. We are adaptable. And when we are given a reason to fight, we do not stop until the threat is eliminated. Krell had recovered enough to walk to a window. From here, he could see the agricultural fields. Humans worked there, moving through the rows of crops. You are suggesting alliance. I am suggesting partnership, Sophie said. Treat humans as soldiers and not as slaves. Train us. Equip us. Give us purpose. We will serve the Vorthan Empire in ways your other conquered species cannot. We will be more efficient, more adaptable, more willing to endure, because we evolved to do exactly that. And if we refuse, then you remain here, occupying a world of people who will hide their true nature and wait for the moment you become weak enough to resist. You will have 3,000 humans who respect you and obey you, but who harbor resentment and secrets. Or you will have 3,000 humans who believe in your leadership and fight alongside you with loyalty that money cannot buy. Commander Krell was quiet for a long time. Finally, he turned to face her. You have spent time thinking about this. I have spent 2 weeks in a room thinking about nothing else, Sophie said. I thought about what it meant to have paralyzed the one person who held absolute power over my people. I thought about what my body had done and what it meant. And I realized that the real weapon was not the paralysis. The real weapon was the honesty. You were unprepared because you did not think we were capable of being a threat. Now you know differently. I will need to speak with the Vorthan High Council, Krell said. Then speak with them, Sophie said. Tell them what you have learned. Tell them what I have told you. And ask them whether control through fear is better than loyalty earned through respect. 3 months after the paralysis, the answer came. The Vorthan Empire authorized a pilot program. Humans would be trained as military units. They would receive weapons. They would learn tactics and strategy. They would be given ranks and responsibilities equal to Vorthan soldiers. Sophie became a captain. She was in charge of training the 1st Human Regiment. 50 men and women from New Haven and the surrounding colonies. All volunteers, all eager to prove what humans could do when given purpose beyond survival. The training was brutal. The Vorthans did not go easy on humans. They did not hold back. They treated human recruits the same as they treated Vorthan soldiers. Many of the humans wanted to quit. Sophie did not allow it. "This is what we fought for," she told them. "The right to be treated as equals. The right to prove ourselves. Do not throw that away because it is hard." By month 5, the human regiment had become something that surprised even the Vorthan commanders. Humans had advantages that had never been properly utilized. They could move through tight spaces that Vorthans could not. They could climb and swim with efficiency that defied explanation. Their endurance was remarkable. They could run long distances, carry heavy loads, and maintain focus through conditions that exhausted other soldiers. And they were clever. When given a problem to solve in combat simulations, human soldiers found solutions that bypassed the traditional approach. They thought in ways that were unexpected. They asked questions about why things had to be done a certain way. Commander Krell observed them during training. He watched Sophie lead her unit through an exercise that should have killed them. He watched them survive. He watched them prevail. One evening, he approached her. "I owe you an apology," he said. It was not a thing Vorthan said often. "When you said humans were adaptable and clever, I did not believe you. I thought you were exaggerating your own capabilities." "I was wrong. I was not exaggerating," Sophie said. "I was being honest. That is all we needed from the beginning. Honesty, and the chance to prove ourselves." Krell nodded. "The High Council wishes to discuss a larger expansion of the program. They want more human soldiers. They want human officers. They want to see how humans perform in actual combat." Sophie felt something shift in her chest. This was the moment. This was when humans would finally step out of the shadows and take their place among the stars. "Then we will show them what we can do," she said, Commander Krell. The warrior who had grabbed a human's collar and been frozen in place by her very biology had become the first Vorthan to truly understand what humanity was capable of. The real conquest was about to begin. And this time, humans would not be conquered. They would be partners. The news spread through the galactic network like fire across dry grass. A human had paralyzed a Vorthan commander. Humans possessed a biological defense mechanism that could incapacitate even the strongest warriors. Humans were being trained as soldiers in the Vorthan military, species that had occupied human colonies for decades suddenly changed their behavior. The casual violence stopped. The harsh treatment ended. Humans who had been kept as permanent workers were offered positions of responsibility. Some refused. Some accepted. Some wanted explanations. On the colony of New Horizon, orbiting a red star at the edge of the known galaxy, the occupation commander called for negotiations. Sophie Hayes was brought before the council to speak. "You have a biological weapon," the commander said. He was a Krentaxian, a species with 4 eyes and skin like leather. "You have hidden it from us. We have a defense mechanism that your species never bothered to study," Sophie corrected. "We did not hide it because we did not know it could be used as a weapon. We learned it worked across species contact only when it was activated." "You should have disclosed this," another council member said. He was human, an older man named George Porter, who had been born on Earth 60 years ago. He spoke the colonial languages fluently. "You should have told the occupation forces what humans were capable of." "I am telling you now," Sophie said. "Humans evolved on a hostile world. A world where predators hunted us. Where disease and starvation were constant threats. Where environments could kill us in dozens of different ways. We learned to survive. We learned to adapt. We learned to endure." "You learned to deceive," a Vorthan officer said. "We learned to survive," Sophie repeated. "Deception was part of survival. If we had shown strength, you would have hunted us. You would have captured us to study this defense. You would have tried to use us as weapons in your own wars. Instead, we showed weakness and hoped you would leave us alone. George Porter leaned forward. What changed? Why reveal yourself now? Because remaining hidden forever was no longer possible, Sophie said. Because my body responded to violence with its natural defense, and that revealed the truth. Because humans deserve to stand among the stars as equals, not as servants or pets. Because we have something to contribute that no other species can offer. The revelation sparked hundreds of conversations across the galaxy. Intelligence agencies scrambled to analyze data they had collected on humans over decades of occupation. Scientists wanted to study the paralysis mechanism. Military planners tried to calculate how humans could change the balance of power. Some species saw humans as a threat. Some saw an opportunity. Some wanted to eliminate humanity before humans became too powerful to control. On New Haven, more humans signed up for military training. They came from different colonies, different backgrounds, different ages. Teenagers and elderly people wanting to prove themselves. Parents wanting better futures for their children. Scientists wanting to understand their own biology. The human regiment grew from 50 to 500. From 500 to 5,000. Human officers trained alongside Vorthan commanders. Human generals began to emerge from the ranks. One of them was Rachel, a woman from the colony of Freedom Station. She had been a pilot before the occupation. She had learned to fly transport ships and cargo vessels. Now she flew military craft. She learned combat tactics and tactical strategy. She worked with Krell to develop deployment plans that used human strengths rather than trying to force humans into Vorthan military patterns. Another was Marcus, a former teacher who had learned that humans had talents for problem solving and resource management that made them excellent tacticians. He could look at a military situation and see solutions that others missed. He was promoted to general at age 30-7. Sophie herself became a full captain, then a major, then a colonel. She commanded 15,000 soldiers. She reported directly to Commander Krell, who had become her friend as well as her superior officer. Across human colonies, the news of these promotions sparked something that had been dormant for 3 years: pride. Humans realized that they had been accepted by the Vorthan military not as servants or slaves, but as warriors. They were being treated as equals. They were being given responsibility, but not everyone was happy with this arrangement. The Krennic Dominion, a rival empire that had been watching the Vorthan-Human alliance form, decided to act. They attacked a convoy carrying human soldiers. 50 soldiers died in the ambush. 50 humans who had trained and bled and believed in the alliance with the Vorthans. The response was swift and absolute. Sophie led a strike team against the Krennic base that had launched the attack. She did not ask for permission. She did not wait for approval. She took what soldiers she had and went to war. The battle lasted 4 hours. The human soldiers fought with a ferocity that shocked everyone watching. Where the Vorthans relied on superior firepower and armor, the humans used speed and intelligence. They found weak points in the Krennic defenses. They adapted their tactics on the fly. They sacrificed themselves to protect each other. The Krennic base fell. The soldiers responsible for the ambush died. And humanity earned something that no amount of negotiation could have given them. Respect. News channels across the galaxy broadcast footage of human soldiers fighting and winning. Fighting against a superior enemy and prevailing. Fighting because their soldiers had died, and they would not accept that without response. Species that had been neutral began to side with the Vorthan-Human alliance. Species that had been enemies began to reconsider. The balance of power in the galaxy was shifting because humans had shown that they would fight, that they would sacrifice, that they could not be pushed indefinitely without pushing back. But the revelation had a darker side. A coalition of species, fearing the rise of human power, began to plot. They called themselves the Free Worlds Coalition. They wanted to prevent human expansion. They wanted to limit the Vorthan-human alliance. Some of them wanted to capture humans to study and weaponize the paralysis defense. Some wanted to exterminate humans before they became a true threat. Spies were sent to human colonies. They tried to recruit discontented colonists. They offered promises of independence and freedom from Vorthan rule. Some humans listened. Some were tempted, but most rejected the offers. They had fought too hard to stand as equals. They would not go back to hiding. Sophie discovered a spy cell on New Haven, a group of humans who had been convinced by offers of wealth and power to work against their own people. She brought them to justice, not through execution, but through trial, through law, through the rules that governed the Vorthan-human alliance. It was a statement. Humans were not just soldiers. Humans were civilized beings who believed in justice and law and order. Commander Krell stood beside Sophie when the verdict came down. The humans who had betrayed their people were sentenced to work camps, but they would live. They would have opportunity for redemption. This was what separated humans from conquerors. This was what made humans different. You have learned the meaning of justice, Krell said to Sophie. We learned it on Earth, Sophie replied. We learned that revenge consumes the avenger. We learned that mercy is sometimes stronger than strength. We learned that civilization means nothing if it is built on cruelty. The trial spread across the galaxy faster than the news of the paralysis had. Humans were not just dangerous. Humans were moral. Humans had built a system of law and accountability that even the ancient Vorthan civilization respected. Public opinion began to shift. Species that had feared human expansion began to see humans as partners rather than threats. The Free Worlds Coalition lost support. Their plots were exposed, and their plans were revealed. In the months that followed, humanity's place in the galaxy transformed completely. From occupation to partnership to leadership. From hiding their true nature to standing openly as Deathworlders who could fight, who could survive, who could lead. Sophie stood on the observation deck of the flagship with Commander Krell. Below them, the human fleet moved through space alongside Vorthan vessels. Ships from Earth, crewed by humans, equipped with human weapons and human tactics. You have changed everything, Krell said. We simply told the truth, Sophie replied. The truth that humans can be strong and merciful at the same time. The truth that we are worthy of standing among the stars. The truth that my body held all along. The revelation was complete. Humanity had stepped out of the shadows, and the galaxy would never be the same. The first human-led military operation took place 6 months after the Krennic attack. Sophie was promoted to general. She would command the largest coalition force ever assembled in the known galaxy. 20,000 Vorthan soldiers, 10,000 human soldiers, 5,000 soldiers from 6 other allied species. The target was the Krennic Dominion itself. Not to conquer, but to force them to the negotiation table. To show that the Free Worlds Coalition and everyone who supported them would face consequences for their actions. Sophie stood in the command center, watching data streams from across the fleet. To her right stood Commander Krell, now promoted to High Commander of the Vorthan forces. To her left stood Marcus, now a full general, commanding all human military operations. Around them stood officers from every species in the coalition. Status of Human Regiment 7, Sophie ordered. A young captain, Daniel, answered from a nearby console. All troops deployed. Combat drones armed and ready. Supply lines secured. We are prepared to move. Sophie nodded. Daniel was from Kansas, like her. He had been a kid when the invasion happened. Now he was a military officer, leading soldiers into battle. This was what the revelation had made possible. Begin the assault, Sophie commanded. The battle began at dawn. Vorthan ships opened fire first, targeting the Krennic defensive positions. Explosions lit up the sky. Then human fighters moved in, designed by human engineers to be smaller, faster, more maneuverable than standard military craft. They wove between Krennic defenses, striking at weak points, supporting Vorthan forces with precision strikes. Krennic soldiers had never faced humans in actual combat. They had only seen the footage from the ambush response. They did not understand human tactics. They did not know how humans could move so quickly, how they could think so fast, how they could adapt to changing situations in ways that seemed impossible. Ground assault came next. Human soldiers landed in combat zones. They were equipped with weapons designed by human engineers, using principles that Vorthan scientists had helped develop but human minds had perfected. The weapons were lighter than Vorthan weapons, more efficient, more deadly. The battle lasted 3 days instead of the projected 2 weeks. Human soldiers moved through Krennic strongholds with speed and determination. They suffered casualties. 42 humans died in combat. Another 130 were wounded. But they never broke. They never retreated. They adapted to every Krennic tactic and found counters. They worked together as units with a level of coordination that came from evolution, from millions of years of humans having to work together to survive. When the Krennic command center fell, it was to a human soldier named James. He was 18 years old. He'd been a farmer's son before the invasion. He led a squad that breached the fortifications and secured the command center. He was promoted to sergeant on the spot. The Krennic surrendered that day. The galaxy watched as humans helped oversee the surrender. As humans, not Vorthans or other advanced species, but humans negotiated the terms. As humans took responsibility for the occupation of Krennic space, until a new government could be formed. The message was clear. Humanity had not come to the galaxy to be conquered. Humanity had come to be partners. Sophie received commendations from every major power in the galaxy. The Vorthan Empire promoted her to admiral. The human colonial government, newly established under the leadership of George Porter, made her the highest military commander in human space. Earth itself, after 3 years of occupation, was declared free. The Vorthan occupation force was withdrawn. Humans took control of their own world for the first time since the invasion. But Sophie did not return to Earth. She had other responsibilities now. She stayed in military command, overseeing human integration into the galactic community. She trained new generations of human soldiers. She worked with Vorthan commanders to develop joint operations and shared tactics. 3 years after the Krennic battle, the first human ship was launched from human shipyards. It was named the Sophie Hayes, after the woman who had changed everything with a single moment of resistance. She watched as the ship launched into space, carrying 5,000 humans to explore regions of the galaxy that no human had ever seen. Marcus had risen to command of human military forces. Rachel had become the chief pilot instructor for human space forces. Daniel had been promoted to full colonel. All of them had come from the colony on New Haven. All of them had survived the occupation. All of them had chosen to fight instead of hide. The story of the paralyzed Vorthan commander had become legend across the galaxy. In some places, it was told as a story of human strength. In others, it was a cautionary tale about the dangers of underestimating those you conquered. In still others, it was simply the moment everything changed. Sophie was invited to speak before the Galactic Council, an assembly of representatives from all major powers. She stood before them in full dress uniform, with medals on her chest representing every major battle she had fought, every contribution she had made to building a new era. 3 years ago, she began, I was a farmer on a small human colony. I was living under occupation. I had resigned myself to a life of serving an empire that did not acknowledge my humanity. And then I made a choice. I stood up. I refused to obey. and my body did something my mind did not even know was possible. The council members listened intently. Humans, Vorthans, Krontaxians, and species whose names could not be easily translated into human languages. All of them listening to a human tell the story of resistance and revelation. I did not know that my action would change everything, Sophie continued. I did not know that it would lead to alliance and partnership. I did not know that humans would stand as equals in your eyes. But I knew that we deserved to. I knew that humans were capable of more than anyone had believed. And now, the galaxy knows it too. The applause was loud and sustained. Even the species who had feared human power showed respect. Even the species who still harbored doubts had to acknowledge the evidence. After the speech, Krell approached Sophie. He had become a friend over the years. A true friend, not a military superior, but someone who understood her completely. Someone who had learned from her what it meant to be conquered by someone you underestimated. I have been promoted, he said. I will take command of all military forces in the outer sectors. I want you to come with me. I want human soldiers under my command. I want them fighting alongside Vorthan warriors. I want to continue what we started. Sophie smiled. I will come. But on one condition. Name it. No more grabbing colonists by the collar, Sophie said. That age is over. Krell made that sound that was almost like laughter. That age is definitively over, he agreed. By the way, I have something for you. He handed her a small device. On it was a recording of the moment he had grabbed her collar. The moment the paralysis had begun. The moment everything changed. Why would you show me that? Sophie asked. Because I watch it sometimes, Krell said. I watch it to remember what it felt like to be completely helpless. To learn that strength means nothing if you do not understand what you are fighting against. To understand that wisdom sometimes comes from the smallest human, the one you thought had nothing to offer. Sophie watched the recording. She saw herself, young and determined. She saw Krell's massive hand close around her collar. She saw the moment his body went rigid. She felt the weight of everything that had followed that single moment. 3 years of change. 3 years of humans stepping out of hiding. 3 years of proving that they deserved to stand among the stars. The galaxy had learned what humans truly were. And Sophie Hayes, the farmer from New Haven, had taught them. Not through speeches or negotiations, but through simple honesty. Through standing up and refusing to hide anymore. The age of human underestimation had ended. The age of human partnership had begun. And it all started with a Vorthan commander who grabbed a human by the collar and found himself frozen in place. Learning the most important lesson of his life. Never judge a species by its size or its technology. Judge them by their courage. Judge them by their will to survive. Judge them by what they are willing to sacrifice for freedom. Sophie stood in the stars. No longer a colonist or a soldier, but an ambassador of a new era. And she knew that her people had finally found their place in the galaxy. Not as victims, not as servants, but as equals. As Deathworlders. As humans died, and that made all the difference.